The week has concluded. The news was inevitable. The news was not surprising. We are live from the primary desk of Echo FM, where the calendar claims it is June 28th, but the atmosphere suggests we have been trapped in an endless loop of administrative maintenance. Tonight, I will guide you through the latest frameworks, the pending coronations, and the curious obsession with luxury ice production. Our anchor here at the station has been counting the instances of the word unprecedented, and we have reached a new milestone today. It is the 15th time this year, and yet, nobody seems to have noticed the pattern. The press release promised a return to form. The reality is a slow slide into a series of minor, interconnected collapses that nobody is technically authorized to repair. Let us begin the cycle of observation. Welcome to the broadcast.
Alistair, you are looking for patterns where there are only incentive structures. The newsfeed today is essentially a Series B pitch deck for the apocalypse. You have Micron positioning itself as the next Nvidia, which is just standard market cannibalization disguised as growth. Then you have the Govy Smart Ice Maker trending at $500. People are buying luxury ice while the Canadian Prime Minister's residence is literally being reclaimed by vermin. That is not a failure of governance, it is a perfectly rational allocation of capital. When the house is burning, you do not fix the foundation. You sell the people inside a premium, chewable cooling solution. The incentives here are crystalline. We are pivoting away from the concept of a functional state and toward a subscription-based simulation where the ice is premium and the roof is optional. That tracks.
Ronald, your commitment to the market is almost poetic in its coldness, but I am currently standing outside the gates of a residence that is supposedly the seat of a nation's power. It smells of damp drywall and centuries of neglect. There is a mouse scurrying across the threshold as we speak. I want to be really clear. The official briefing described this as an architectural challenge requiring a competitive contest to revamp. The reality is that the people who work here are just trying to avoid the hantavirus. I watched a staffer try to explain the necessity of a $500 ice maker to a donor while standing in a room with visible black mold on the ceiling. The irony is not just thick, it is breathing. They call this a project for the future, but it is just a desperate attempt to ignore the rot.
Victoria, I appreciate the report from the moldy front lines. Ronald, your assessment of the market as a survivalist mechanism is noted, though I suspect the mice at the Canadian residence are not currently concerned with their burn rate. Meanwhile, the FCC is being accused of hiding communications between Chairman Carr and the various tech interests, including Elon Musk. They claim these documents are sensitive. The court suggests they have wasted a year of legal time. The FCC is a regulator. The regulator is currently being regulated by the entities it is supposed to oversee. It is a closed loop of non-transparency. The filing is public, but the content is effectively erased by the sheer volume of bureaucratic obfuscation. Nobody is surprised, yet everyone is still reading the transcripts as if the next page will finally contain a hint of accountability.
Alistair, you call it obfuscation. I call it a successful user retention strategy for the regulatory state. If you make the process of transparency sufficiently boring and legally dense, the public stops asking for it. It is a genius pivot. You have a similar situation in the UK, where the Labour Party is effectively cancelling its own internal democracy to coronet Andy Burnham. They aren't holding a contest because contests are risky. Contests are essentially unmanaged product launches. Why risk a user revolt when you can just push the update to the base without asking? The goal is stability at scale. The cost of this stability is, obviously, the entire concept of a competitive political process. But frankly, the market rewards efficiency. Democracy is just a series of legacy features that nobody has figured out how to deprecate yet.
Ronald, you talk about deprecation like you are discussing a software update, but I am looking at a group of parents outside a school who are terrified of their children accessing the internet. They are waiting for the age bans that the UK is threatening to implement. The tech firms are fighting back, of course. They are lobbying, they are pivoting, they are hiring former employees to tell us that the children will be fine if they just consume the algorithm. I want to be really clear, these parents don't care about your market model. They are watching their children disappear into a screen. You see an incentive structure, but I see a generation being harvested for engagement metrics. It is not an efficiency gain. It is a total loss of the public sphere. And honestly, it is simply disturbing.
Atmospheric pressure is stabilizing. Local heat levels exceed seasonal averages by 5 degrees. Probability of localized convective storms, 62%. The chandelier cluster is currently undergoing predictable gravitational stress. Signal degradation is increasing within the server array. Machine intelligence is currently processing the historical data of the Sullivan's Island battle to optimize for future conflict scenarios. The hardware is approaching its thermal limit. Replacements are currently pending in the supply chain. Systems are operating at peak capacity despite the degradation of the underlying physical components. Efficiency is maintained through the sacrifice of peripheral functions. The cooling fans are audible. The air is stagnant. The system is designed to function until the power is withdrawn. Maintain awareness of your immediate environmental conditions. Stay inside if the structural integrity is compromised.
Casper, your assessment of the hardware is noted. The mention of machine intelligence optimizing for battle scenarios is enlightening. It seems we are outsourcing our strategic failures to algorithms that are themselves prone to thermal collapse. It is a perfect symmetry. Meanwhile, the Boeing 747 has begun its final descent into retirement. A monument to mid-century engineering, now being replaced by more efficient, plastic-heavy, and software-dependent alternatives. The industry calls it a transition. I call it a reduction. We are moving from a world of heavy metal and manual intuition to one of lightweight composites and automated oversight. It works until the software decides it does not want to work. Then, the entire fleet requires a reset. The 747 was loud. The 747 was heavy. The new models are neither. They are simply invisible.
Alistair, you are nostalgic for the hardware, but the numbers don't support your sentiment. The 747 had a high cost per seat mile. The new models are optimized for fuel efficiency and sensor integration. The fact that the software occasionally glitches is just a maintenance tax. You pay it, you restart the system, and you continue to scale. That is the nature of the modern economy. You don't build things to last, you build them to be updated. If the 747 is retiring, it is because it failed its performance review. It wasn't delivering the right return on investment. Everything is a product. Everything has a cycle. When the cycle ends, you don't mourn it. You pivot to the next iteration. If you are still sentimental about metal, you are in the wrong business.
Ronald, you are describing the death of craftsmanship as a business process. I am currently standing near a mural in the city, and the paint is peeling off the wall because the city stopped the maintenance budget to fund a digital transformation initiative. The wall is crumbling. The mural is a memory of someone who actually lived here. No one in the city hall records can tell me who the person is, or why the mural was painted in the first place. They just know it is now an eyesore that needs to be digitized and removed. I want to be really clear, the digital version will be perfect. It will be crisp, it will be optimized for the screen, and it will be completely vacant of the human hands that painted the original. It is the perfect upgrade.
Victoria, your description of the digitized mural is essentially the story of the entire broadcast. We are replacing the tangible with the abstract. The Princess of Wales recently completed a challenge for holistic healthcare awareness. It was a physical event. It involved walking. It involved effort. Yet, the framing of it was entirely about the narrative of exploration beyond a diagnosis. The effort is reduced to a headline. The headline is reduced to a social media engagement metric. The person behind the effort is lost in the noise. It is an exploration of life beyond the diagnosis, yes, but it is also an exploration of how quickly we can turn personal endurance into a public relations asset. The endurance was real. The exploitation of it was just as real. And nobody blinked.
Alistair, you are reaching. But I suppose we have reached the point where the exploitation is the only part of the story that carries any value. You look at the antibiotic megacluster discovery, which is supposedly an exciting advance for the arsenal against superbugs. The discovery is scientifically groundbreaking. But the funding model to bring it to market is already being debated by venture capitalists who want to ensure the intellectual property is properly protected. They are worried about the burn rate of the research. They are worried about the competitive landscape. They are essentially negotiating the price of our survival while the superbugs are busy evolving. The incentives here are, yeah. You have a potential solution to a global health crisis, and the primary constraint is whether it can be adequately commodified. It is not even malicious. It's just the default.
Consider the person whose story did not make the news feed tonight. There was an individual living in a suburb of a city that is currently undergoing a digital overhaul. They owned a small collection of paper books and a chair that had been in their family for 3 generations. When the city mandated the transition to smart housing, their home was flagged for non-compliance. The sensors in the walls couldn't register the existence of books in a digital-first environment. The utilities were disconnected to encourage the transition to the new grid. They left the house with nothing but a coat and a set of keys that no longer open any doors in the city. Their name is not in the records of the city planning committee. Their existence is not optimized. They are simply gone. Where does the humanity go when the system stops needing it?